I'm Bob with FixMyPlaystation.com. Let's take a look at unjamming a 400 model PlayStation 3 Blu-ray drive. And to show you some of the fine points of unjamming a drive, there's loads of ways that a drive can get jammed where you can either not put a disc in or take a disc out. But you kind of come across all these points if you just look at a drive that is taken out of the machine with a disc already inside. So a lot of times we're working on a YLOD of death machine, and most of those have got a disc stuck inside the disc drive. So what we do is we remove the drive, take the metal cover off. I've already removed the 5 screws that hold the cover on here, and you can see all that part of the process in other videos that we have. First, we're going to remove the spindle cap, the magnetic spindle cap in the middle. Then we're going to just carefully lift the cover off and to the left, and watch what happens to the disc here. The mechanisms built into the cover of the disc drive will push the disc out. So we set that aside, and we lay the cover off to the left. Now what we see here is a disc drive that has essentially the top part, the cover of the disc drive has become uncocked, whereas the mechanism of the drive itself has remained cocked. You think like a cocked gun. You have some spring-driven mechanisms that have tension in them now that shouldn't if the drive is empty. So what we have to do with this drive is we have to set all the mechanisms back to sort of their original position so that they can take a disc in. So what we'll do first is we're going to lift up this this cover here, that this piece of plastic here covers. Take this one screw out, loosen it, and we lift this up, and this cover here covers our entire eject mechanisms, basically the motor here that allows the drive to take a disc in and spit it out. We set that aside for a moment. And what we need to do, and this is, you'll see in a jammed disk drive, if you can't get your disc out or can't put a disc in, a lot of times when you take it apart, this is the state that the disk drive is in. So you'll see some of the same things. So you have to open your disk drive up and compare to this video and see if you can find, you know, some pieces that aren't quite sitting where they should sit at the end of this video when everything is reset to its original position. So what we do here is we're going to loosen remove the 2 screws that hold the drive motor in place. These 2 sort of flat Phillips head screws. We're going to remove both of those, and what we're going to do is we're going to lift this motor up just a little bit, and the motor has got a little screw drive or a snake drive here at the front. When that motor is in place, that drive is in contact with these gears. The gears can't turn. So we lift the motor up to get it out of the way, just to kind of free it. Now watch, when we let go, see how the mechanism works? These 2 long black plastic pieces slide opposite each other. So when the drive is fully ejected, the left part, the left sliding piece, is to the back, to the rear, and the right piece is to the front. So if we push this out of the way, so when you put a disc in, the laser has dropped out of the way. When you put a disc in, these pieces slide opposite each other. You notice the laser rises up. Laser drops down, laser rises up in a position to play a disc. So we want to drop everything down so that the laser is out of the way so a disc can come in. Now look at this portion over here. This corner of the left sliding piece is in contact with this gear wheel. It should not be. This is a big thing. A lot of times your whole drive is jammed just because of this one goofy little piece here. So what we want to do is push this black piece back. Watch. Click. That's it. It moves 1/8 of an inch. But now this piece is no longer in contact with this gear wheel. That's how this needs to be over here. One other piece that gets people all the time. This little white rocking piece here, it sort of teeters back and forth. You notice this, it's a little hard to see from this angle maybe. Hopefully we can see like this. This little white piece is sticking up in the way and blocking a disc from coming in. We push that piece to the left and watch. Drops out of the way, no longer blocking the disc. So these 2 points here, this little rocking piece needs to be nudged to the left a little bit so it drops out of the way. This black sliding piece on the left side should not be touching this gear wheel. Put the motor back in place. Put our two little retaining screws back in. We put the gear, I'll call it a gearbox cover here. We put this cover back on top. And the one retaining screw for it. And we're pretty much back in action. Now, one thing I noticed here is this little winger here has come off. This little spring-loaded piece, well, this is his brother over on the left side. I'm going to put this piece back down on top of this little pin. Slide it back in place. And then there's a little screw, there's a little spring, sorry about that, little spring underneath here. I usually use just a little straight pin to pull this spring up. I'll do a separate video showing this in more detail. But there's a little spring here that is now pressing on the back side of this little winger here. And now that piece is spring loaded just like the right side. Now this drive is ready to take a disc in. The disc starts to slide in, pushes against these rollers, and when it does, if this was powered, it would activate that motor underneath to allow these rollers to open up, the disc to come in, eventually to move all the way to the middle. And once it's in the middle, the laser rises up. And the magnetic spindle wheel has a magnet in the middle, rises up to make contact with the other magnet in the spindle cap. And when those two magnets come together, they pinch the disc, and then the spindle wheel can spin the disc. So there's a number of things that can be wrong. Yes, some of those plastic pieces can be broken and need to be replaced, but it's really pretty rare. If we do 100 jammed, whether it's a 400 or a 410 model disk drive, if we had 100 units come in that were jammed, not more than probably 10 would have actual broken pieces in here. It's usually just something that, and we've had units in here with up to 4 discs jammed in by 3-year-olds. We had one that had 2 discs, 2 Blu-ray games. The mother's gold hoop earrings, or gigantic hoop earrings, both of them were jammed in there, and her Platinum Visa card. That was in one machine. Another one had 5 discs. One had $1 worth of nickels and a couple of toys shoved in there. Anything that'll fit in that opening in the front, 3-year-olds will push in there. You open up the disk drive, you remove all the foreign bodies. It's very rare that you find anything actually broken in here. So if you have a jammed disk drive, it's worth taking a look. Okay, if there's something broken or if it's too complicated to undo, that's fine. But go back and review the video again. Look at those, those few bits of the mechanism in here that are supposed to slide opposite each other. Check your rollers here. Check these little wingers and see if they're still spring loaded or not. Look at the cover of the disk drive and are there any broken pieces in the cover? But probably won't be. It's fairly simple to reassemble that drive. And if you have trouble, you always send us an email, support@fixmyplaystation.com. Email us a picture of your drive and what you think is wrong, and we'll see if we can talk you through it. Thanks for watching.